Hello and welcome to Shift Strong. This is episode 2 in the mindset series. So last episode, I talked about going from a fixed to a growth mindset and how that's really important, notably for your mental health, but also for your physical health, and how it helps you to take on challenges in life day to day. Today, we're going to see how this is so powerful in training. So if you haven't yet listened to that episode, please go back and listen to get the foundations for what we're talking about today. Today, we're going to talk about how your brain is holding you back from performance and how you can train it to be able to perform better in sport. So I will start off by explaining how the brain works in relation to exercise. And then I will go into some examples of athletes and how they train their brains to perform better and how we can do it to perform better in our training. And it might not only be for performance, but also for consistency and reaching the goals that you really want to reach. So first, we will dive into explaining how the brain works in relation to exercise. So if you think back to our ancestors and the way they lived, they needed to survive. So the amygdala is actually focused on protecting us from potential threats. So if you're not conserving energy and if you're taking unnecessary risks, the brain is going to be trying to protect you because potentially that could lead to you not surviving. And so that's an evolution instinct that we have. However, today, that's much less relevant for us in the way we live. But it helps you to understand why your brain will send you these signals and to be able to work with them rather than against them in achieving your goals. There are some theories as well, one of which is called the central governor theory. This is by exercise physiologist Tim Noakes, and he argues that the brain is actually regulating signals of fatigue. So, for example, instead of letting you go to tissue damage or collapse, the brain will send signals of fatigue to stop that happening beforehand. And this theory, he uses the example of athletes to say, okay, well, an athlete may get to kilometer 9 and they'll think they've got no energy left, but actually they can give a final sprint in those last 200 meters. And so what's the signals that their brain is sending are actually just regulating and not actual mechanical symptoms to say you're not capable of doing it. And that one I've definitely experienced at the end of competitions and races where you think you're right at the end of your energy levels and you can't give anything more. But strangely, when you approach the finish line, there's just that final burst of energy. So that's where you know you can go to the end. But because you know it's the end, not during the actual race. Then we have to think about how the signals of discomfort and danger overlap. So physical pain, emotional distress, and threat processing signals in the brain overlap. And so when we're doing hard exercise, we'll feel breathlessness, muscles burning, and stress hormones rising. So our brain's actually associating them with danger rather than I'm just exercising and this is okay. So if we accept those signals, then we will be more likely to stop pushing because we think it's dangerous. However, when you have experience in training, you realize that you can actually push through those. So often high-level athletes will experience those same signals that we experience, but they have trained themselves to push through. When you're new to training and you're not used to that feeling of those sort of sensations of danger, the signals that your brain is sending to you, you may have a tendency to stop before you're actually physically capable of stopping. And in training, it's really important to keep pushing yourself to get the progression. If you think about your body, it needs a stimulus which is strong enough to create the changes that you're trying to create to achieve your goals. So if you're not giving it enough stimulation because you're stopping before you get to your limit, then it's less likely to create those changes. So this is why often I will be encouraging people to lift something heavier than they think they're capable of lifting, because I know I need their body to be stimulated more to get the results that they're looking to get. Okay, so now you understand that the brain is just trying to protect you, but it's not actually your physical limits. You can work with that information to train your brain. So I've talked about some ways that high-level athletes train their brains. So I've got some examples for you. So there's a female ultra trail runner called Courtney Dauwalter. She is extremely good at ultra running. She often beats men in races, which is really impressive, seeing that men have biological advantages that we do not. And she has an extremely powerful mental drive. So she talks about going into the pain cave. So she sort of uses this image of the pain cave when she's in a race that she just lets herself go into, rather than rejecting the pain. She accepts it, and she knows it's part of her succeeding. So she actually visualizes a cave that she goes into, and she's curious about the different parts of the cave, and that's where her pain is, but she accepts that she just has to move forward with it. So that's one of the ways she succeeds. Given that ultra running is extremely tough, you have to have a very strong mental capacity to push through those tough times. Then there's the example of Simone Biles. So she pulled out of the Tokyo Olympics and actually then had some therapy in order to get back to competing, and was extremely successful in that. So she talks about specifically using visualization as one of her techniques. So not only visualization to help calm her nerves, so sort of imagining herself in a calm, happy place, but also to visualize her routine. So she will actually sit down and imagine herself going through the different steps of her routine and succeeding. So this is a really powerful tool. I'll come back and talk about it again later. It's something I've used a lot in my career change and have really helped me to take on the impossible. She also talks about goal setting and learning to trust herself. So it's sort of around building that confidence. And she came back and really succeeded when she went back to her next Olympic Games. It doesn't have to be just high-level athletes that use these techniques. And so I wanted to give you some examples, not only from people I train, but also my self-training. I have had the experience of having to fight fear to achieve one of my goals, which was to compete in a triathlon. I say compete, it was to complete a triathlon, because for years and years I've been too scared to put my head underwater. So for me, I just considered a triathlon as impossible, even though I can cycle and I can run without any issues. So I decided that it's something I wanted to do, and I had to take myself through the process of just digging away at that fear. So this was a lot of mental training, because I was actually scared of putting my head underwater. So of course I hired a super swim instructor, and she really helped me to get through that initial phase of getting my head underwater and then teaching me actually how to swim, because of course I didn't know how to swim because I was too scared to put my head underwater. Then came going into a pool and actually having to do lengths, which was really scary at the beginning. Every time I would feel quite defeated, because I would find that I was panicking a lot and it was difficult. But I had that end goal of the triathlon, so I could not give up. And once I got comfortable in the pool, because little by little, I was training my brain to be okay with that fear and realized that it was safe. I then went on to open water, again, had those feelings of panic and my brain trying to stop me because it's dangerous. And I kept pushing through and used really a lot of mental strength to keep going back and keep trying. And even during the actual race, to be able to finish the swim, I had to really use a lot of my mental strength to push through. And it sounds silly, but I used to, at that time, I was reading a lot of Mike Horn. And Mike Horn does expeditions across the world where he actually does put himself in danger. And there are times where he just has to put one foot in front of the other because he doesn't have the choice. And in that moment of panic, I was like, I am Mike Horn and I just have to keep going forward. And it really did work because I managed to calm myself down and I managed to keep going and finish the triathlon. And having that experience of facing fear, like physical, real fear that was crippling, that would try to stop me from swimming, has made me into a much stronger runner. Since the triathlon, I've realized this because I now am capable of recognizing when my brain is trying to tell me it's danger. And of course, I've probably been aware of that in running before, but since the triathlon, I had competed in a 10K race and I really wanted to achieve a specific time, which I was capable of doing about 5 or 6 years ago. So I really was set on achieving that. And during the race, my brain was trying to tell me, you are not capable of doing it. And having those feelings of discomfort and a bit of panic at the thought that I may not succeed. And because I'd done the triathlon and I'd been able to push myself through such fear, I knew that I could just keep pushing. So I kept saying to myself, no, you can do this. You're going to succeed. And just fighting away those negative thoughts of failure and not being capable, because until someone stops me from running, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going as fast as I can. And it worked and I achieved better than what I expected. And I really felt that a lot of that was mental. And so I now really recommend that people I work with use that challenging of negative thoughts to help themselves when they're going into a race, and just believing you can do it. That's the first step. So this is something I see a lot when I'm training people in lifting weights. So a lot of people are scared of failing, or they sort of don't believe they'll be capable of lifting a certain weight. However, because I know them well, I know if they are mentally and physically there and capable of lifting that weight on that specific day. So I will try and get them to believe firstly that they're capable of doing it. And I always say, right, you have to believe that you can do it. And then you'll try, and 99% of the time it will work. So it really is about believing you can do it. And in the worst case, you don't succeed the lift and it doesn't matter. No one's watching you fail. You're trying, so that means you're succeeding. So if you don't have a personal trainer, you can act as your own coach. And when your negative thoughts are trying to tell you that you cannot complete the lift or run at that speed, whatever it is you're trying to do, imagine there's another person telling you to believe in yourself, and you will most likely succeed in what you're trying to do. So to finish off this episode, I am going to leave you with some really practical tools to help you perform better using your mindset and the power of your brain to keep pushing and progressing in what you're doing and achieve your goals. So number one, for me, the key thing to work on is defining your purpose. So if you have something you want to achieve, then you need to know deep down why you're doing it. So you'll be ready to face that discomfort that's going to come up during your training because you know there's a deeper purpose. For example, if someone comes to me, wants me to work with them because they want to lose weight, I will always try and find out what their deeper purpose is and get them to remember that, because just losing weight isn't going to be a deep enough purpose. We need to know why, what the driver is behind that. It might be really simple things like being able to walk up 2 flights of stairs without being out of breath. It could be linked to later on in life that you want to be strong and independent and be able to play with your grandchildren. But it's really good to think about, okay, why am I doing this? What's the deeper purpose? So that when you have the doubts, you can think back to that deeper purpose and keep you motivated. Then if you've got a big challenge, you need to break it down to small steps so that your brain can manage it. It likes small, manageable and specific steps towards your goal. So break it down. Use the example of me going to the pool. Okay, firstly, I will feel comfortable in the pool. Then I will do 2 lengths. Then I'll do 4 lengths until I'm capable of doing the distance I need to be able to do. And keep repeating. The brain will become more familiar with the actions that you're doing, and will slowly send less of these signals, or you'll just sort of drown them out, because you know that they're not danger. They're just trying to stop you, but you're trying to reach your goal and you've got that deeper purpose. You need to be able to challenge your negative thoughts. So this is something which I really learned from going to therapy and listening to my thoughts to see what was holding me back. So like I explained in the first episode, I was really being held back by my negative thoughts, which if I'd have listened to today, I would not be a personal trainer. I would not have made that career change. I would be still living a life which I wasn't happy with. So do not let your negative thoughts stop you. Try and listen to them, see what they're saying, and then challenge them. If they're saying you're not capable of running at that speed, ask why. Tell it, okay, I will be able to run that speed if I keep training to do it. You will not be able to lift that weight. You'll never be able to do it. Why won't I ever be able to do it? I just need to train. I'll get stronger and I'll be able to do it. So really challenging that. When you have doubts and fears that come into your mind, it's completely human. It's completely normal. Everyone has it. We're wired that way. However, you don't have to be sucked into those negative thoughts and believe them. You have to believe in yourself and that you can do it. One really strong tool is going to be visualization. So if you are trying to do a lift, if you are wanting to compete in a race and you're worried about it, try to visualize yourself succeeding. So close your eyes, imagine yourself in that situation where you succeed, and try and just feel the emotions of that moment. Keep projecting that moment and your brain will get used to that idea. It's a really strong tool and it worked really well for me in changing my career path. And I know lots of athletes use it. So definitely try to use visualization as a tool to help you perform better. You also need to be okay with discomfort. So discomfort during training, discomfort when you're pushing yourself. Your brain is trying to tell you to stop because it hurts, it's painful, but it's not dangerous. So pushing through discomfort up to a certain level is going to be really useful. It's going to help you to grow. Like I explained at the beginning of the episode, if you are always staying within your limits, then you're not asking your body for more. You're not creating enough stimulation for your body to create those physiological changes it needs to become stronger or faster. So you've got to bear that in mind when you're training, that if you feel like you're not pushing that hard, then you're probably not seeing results. But perhaps it's your mental strength that you need to work on and build up a little bit more to push through that difficulty. And again, lots of people struggle with this. And this is something I help people to work on during personal training, in just getting used to that feeling of the burning muscles, the pushing, and having to really make a big effort. That's very normal and it's very safe, especially if you've learned how to lift correctly. And so definitely keep working on that. And you will probably find that the more you challenge discomfort, the more you'll apply that in life generally. Instead of taking the lift, like, oh, I could take the stairs. Instead of taking the car, okay, well, I'll walk to do my shopping. Little things like that will lead you to having just a general better relationship with discomfort, and just accepting it as something which is normal in life. And helping you to achieve your goals rather than something that's going to stop you from doing what you want to be doing. So I really hope you have taken something away from this episode. Please, on your next training session, whatever you're doing, try and listen out for your negative thoughts and give it a go, challenging them and seeing if you're able to overcome those negative thoughts. Thank you so much for listening. I will be back soon with a new episode. Have a great day. Hi, you're listening to the Shift to Strong podcast by FEB Coaching. My aim is to give women the truth about health and fitness. So in the podcast, I will be using science-backed information and also mixing that with my philosophy and values about training, which I've developed through my personal experience as a personal trainer and training myself. So please bear in mind that science does evolve and opinions do evolve over time. So I'm trying to give you the most up-to-date information and my view at the current time. If you find this content useful, please help spread the word by sharing it with a friend, liking and following the podcast. That would be really, really great. And if you want more information about how to train, please go and look on my website. It's www.feb.com. You also have my Instagram, so it's at feb_coaching. So for more tips and advice, you can find details about the website and Instagram in the podcast description. Thank you, and back to the podcast.